The Nerdcast Empire is on the air. We are back with another episode of the Hard Rock Empire on the Nerdcast Empire. I am Matt in the studio. Great to have you along with us. We are talking the music of August the 1st this week as we are approaching the end of August, at least as far as our episodes go. This is episode number 79 of the Hard Rock Empire and episode number 182 of the Nerdcast Empire as we close in on 200 episodes, and it's kind of wild that we have gotten this far, but it has been an awesome ride so far. We're excited for all the new things we're working on, and we're really excited about everybody who stopped by over the last week, whether it was on one of the streams, whether it was on social media. It was probably one of our best weeks for engagement, and we are incredibly grateful for that as we continue to push forward and try to do new things here on the Nerdcast Empire and on the Hard Rock Empire as well. We're using some new technology tonight, so fingers crossed that it rolls well. Joining me in studio, as always, is Mike. Mike, how's it going?
It's going. This was kind of a barren week for music. Not that there weren't things that I enjoyed. There certainly were, but just kind of looking at what came out, like there wasn't a whole lot of, this many re-releases, this many box sets, this many major artists. Not a whole lot of any of that. Like, I don't know what it is about August 1st, but it was a pretty shallow week, and we did find some good stuff. I'm excited to talk about it, but not that depth of, hey, you like this major act? Here's their new album. Here's this. It just wasn't a lot of that.
One thing to keep in mind, too, is August is another month with 5 weeks, so that could also play into maybe the first week of the month being a little bit lighter on releases. So we'll have to see as the month goes on how that works out. Also joining us this week from parts unknown and through some new technology that we hope and pray to the Roadcaster gods works through the podcast, it's Chris. Chris, how's it going?
It's going great. It's been far too long, couple months, but with all our new followers, new listeners, the turnout we had last week, even a band reaching out to us to kind of recommend some fellow acts, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Had to hop back in and try out this new tech.
Yeah, we've got some really cool new tech. The Call Me feature on Roadcaster, we're giving that a test this week, and it allows for Chris to call basically directly into our Roadcaster Pro just to kind of get the nerdy side of it out of the way. And the best part about it is, two really good parts about it. Number one, kind of eliminates a lot of the noise that we got with Discord. It compresses the signal quite a bit. And the other thing, too, is he can hear the music when it plays. He doesn't have to turn down his microphone and turn up his laptop. He can actually hear it directly through our board. So really excited about some new tech, and we'll see how it works throughout the episode. As Chris mentioned, it was a really great week as far as people reaching out to us on all sources. We had a ton of listens on both Twitch and on YouTube. Our followers have increased on both tremendously as we continue to push for a full monetization affiliate status on Twitch. So we are incredibly grateful for everybody who has stopped by. And probably a good time to mention as we get started, we do have a Discord. It is kind of still in the process of being built, but we will share the link, I should say, in the chat on both sides. So if you'd like to join our Discord, please do that. Stop on by, join the Discord. We do post our stream schedule in there and try to keep the chat going throughout the week. So please stop on by and see us in our Discord. Real quick, as we get things started at the top of the show, before we get to our news headlines, also want to mention next week we will be pushing our program back one day. So we'll be running a holiday day next week. It'll be Monday edition of the Hard Rock Empire, 7 o'clock Eastern, Monday on Labor Day. So as you're enjoying your cookout or whatever you're doing on Labor Day, fire up the Hard Rock Empire. We'll bring you some of the best rock and metal music of August the 8th. That'll be coming up next Monday, and then we'll be back on our regular schedule the following Sunday. So just wanted to make sure, and I'll mention that again before we wrap up. It's time to get to news headlines. Unfortunately, with all this excitement around our podcast, we have to take it down a notch to start out with some bad news, some sad news that came out this week. And really, I think just kind of took everybody by surprise. The news coming out that Brent Hines, the former lead guitarist of Mastodon, died on Wednesday as a victim of a motorcycle accident. And obviously, we had just talked about him a few weeks earlier as he exited the band, and now just a couple weeks later, he's passed away. He was unresponsive when found at the crash site. Unfortunately, really nothing they could really do for him at that point, and it's just horribly tragic. A guy who, you know, helped propel that band into its success, and again, kind of whatever happened there at the end, very unfortunate, but just truly tragic news, Mike, that to hear that he's passed away.
Yeah, absolutely. Not exactly how I was expecting this story to play out. I mean, it was just a few months ago where he left, had a lot of harsh words to say about the other members of the band. They kind of kept it classy, but you knew there had to be quite a bit of pent-up ill will there. Mastodon did release a statement regarding Hines' death. Quote, "We are in a state of unfathomable sadness and grief. Last night, Brent Hines passed away as a result of a tragic accident. We are heartbroken, shocked, and still trying to process the loss of this creative force with whom we shared so many triumphs, milestones, and the creation of music that has touched the hearts of so many. Our hearts are with Brent's family, friends, and fans. At this time, we please ask you respect everyone's privacy during this difficult time. R.I.P. Brent." You know, my takeaway is that how many times on this podcast do we talk about bands, former band members that have beefs with each other and they go on for decades, and you want them to resolve it, and you just think, like, whatever happened here after 20, 25 years writing music together, that they'll never get that opportunity to mend that now, and it's so tragic.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you talk about a lot, is you wish these bands, and obviously this was something that was very immediate from pretty much right after he departed the band. But, you know, you see these bands that have been apart for a while, and they're all getting up in age, and you just think, you know, it'd be great if you guys could bury the hatchet of whatever's going on there, because, you know, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And
be thankful you've had this long to stew on it. Now do something about it.
Yeah, try to mend fences if you can. Chris, I know you're with us as well, and it's just tragic. A band that certainly has put out a ton of great music over the years, and it's a shame that the falling out kind of happened the way it did, but just some really sad news to see his passing.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get to see Mastodon years ago open up for Clutch, and Brent Hines was one. As far as guitarists go, he just had an aura about him. I mean, I have the visuals in my head of watching him play on stage, and just a magnificent musician, and the hits just keep coming. I mean, ever since Ozzy passed away, and you, not necessarily with the issues Ozzy had, but you always hope that you can go out that way. I mean, live a long life, get to say goodbye to your fans, and this is definitely not the way you want to go, but even still, touched a lot of lives, and as a musician, got to tell a whole hell of a lot of stories. I mean, he was a heavy player in their lyrical content, and I still listen to Once More Around the Sun today.
Yeah, it's just really, really sad to hear, and certainly our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends and with the band, who, again, just because of how it all went out, probably makes it an even more difficult pill to swallow at this time. So, unfortunately, I have to start with that news. Again, we certainly, hope for the best for his family and friends as they deal with this in a very difficult time. No easy way to transition, so we will just jump to the next news story, and certainly nothing anywhere near that serious, but it is an interesting story that I'm curious to get my panelists' thoughts on. Interview with Bruce Dickinson. The original interview was from Eddie Trunk's show on SiriusXM's Trunk Nation, where I assume Eddie was kind of trying to maybe suggest that maybe Iron Maiden could go to the Las Vegas Sphere. We just talked about Metallica is very heavily rumored to do a residency at the Sphere, maybe sometime in 2026 or when their next tour is over. There have been many other acts that have played at this state-of-the-art facility, and it was interesting that Dickinson basically shot it down and said that, because of the relationship they have with their fans, that wasn't really something that seemed to interest him, at least at this time. Chris, we'll start with you. Everybody's talking about playing at this state-of-the-art facility, but it's interesting to see a notable act that that would draw well at something like this kind of decide maybe that's not really what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand where Dickinson's coming from. Not every band is going to want to play the Sphere, because the Sphere in itself, I mean, it's partially going to take away from that experience that you have with the band. You're going to be so focused on the amenities and all the technology that goes into the Sphere that, I mean, that's clearly what he's not there for. He wants to have that one-on-one with the fans, always has. But at the same time, I don't think it takes anything away from, say, Metallica for a band like them wanting to play in the Sphere. I think it's just kind of a determination that every band's going to have to make. Do you care that the Sphere is there and that it's going to take away from potentially your stage show, or you just want to step aside from it? And honestly, the bands that they're going to try to get to play the Sphere, they're the bands that are their biggest names that are out there, and they're going to be allowed to make that distinction for themselves.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of, first off, who's big enough to play it, because it's going to be somebody that's got to be in that upper tier echelon of bands. And secondly, it'll be interesting because the other thing too is there's a lot of great venues in Las Vegas. So, I mean, even if they don't want to play the Sphere, even if they want to do a residency, there's certainly dozens of other opportunities. Mike, I'm curious to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Reading the article, they mentioned some of the artists that have done it, U2, Fish, Dead and Company, the Eagles. I just think Bruce Dickinson's the kind of guy that he has a very specific image in mind when it comes to what an Iron Maiden show is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And why not? Like, he's been around long enough to certainly call his own shots. I don't think, kind of to Chris's point, I don't think it would take away from the overall experience. If anything, it just gives you a new way to enjoy what, thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans have already enjoyed seeing Maiden live. Why not try something that makes it a fresh experience? But, it's Bruce Dickinson. How can you argue?
And, two things I wonder is when Metallica does play there and whatever that experience looks like, could that maybe go toward changing his mind about that once he sees like this
a metal band
play and what they can take advantage of? And the other thing too is maybe they don't want a residency. Maybe he might drop in for a date just to say, you know what, we'll do one date there and we'll see whether we like it or not. And if we don't ever have to come back here. And like, there's no shortage of places that will have Iron Maiden in.
Yeah, I would assume when you pitch it to him like, hey, U2's played there, that probably doesn't immediately make him think, well, we have to play it. If U2 did it, got to be like, no, I doubt that would really entice him in any way.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, I'm curious to see, if Metallica playing there will change his mind in any way. So I would love to go see them regardless of where they play. Yeah. For sure, they're definitely on that list of bands that I still need to see. So interesting to see kind of how that shakes out as we go forward. That takes care of our news headlines today. Don't forget to check out our website, nerdcastempire.com. You can follow us on all of our social medias. Of course, we are live at least once a week on Twitch and on YouTube. Again, next week it'll be on Monday at 7 o'clock, so make sure you join us for that on Labor Day here in the United States. Outside the United States, just be on Monday. So hopefully, I think Canada also, celebrating Labor Day.
Who doesn't love Monday?
Yeah, who doesn't love, like me. But that's how it goes. So join us next week for that. Really looking forward to that as well. But it's time to get to the new music for this week. And, of course, for those of you who might be new to the podcast, and we do have quite a few people that are maybe new to the podcast over the last couple of weeks, we'll go through the whole spiel of how we get to this point each and every week. Mike will go through and he will put together a playlist on YouTube that has all of the new rock and metal releases for a given date. The given date in question this time is August the 1st. He goes through and he'll pull at least one track off of every one of those new releases, puts them on a YouTube playlist. He goes through and checks them out. Then we go through and check them out, and we pull 2 new albums each that we would like to recommend. And Chris will have a special recommendation as well for us this week. The music, again, from August the 1st, there weren't a lot of albums, as Mike said.
No.
If you joined us late, the selection to choose from this week was considerably less than what we've had. It's been a few weeks since we've had such a limited selection of albums to choose from. But having said that, still some good stuff out there. So I think, number one, check out the playlist yourself. There could be some things that maybe are much more up your alley that maybe we don't really get into. But we encourage you to make your own choices. And, of course, you can let us know in the Discord what your choices and what you like for this week's playlist. And, we'll definitely let that know. Let that, have that discussion on Discord. So it should be interesting to see what everybody else chooses. But it's time to get to our choices for this week. And, of course, Mike, you get us started each and every week. So what do you have for us first this week?
You talk about there not being a lot of options. I did want to take a moment maybe to go over some of the better named options that I didn't go with. Maybe their sound didn't quite sit with me very well. But, one new album we had this week was Ancient Malice with their new one, Accept the Vile Gifts of the Dead. We also had Bloodbrain Barrier with their new album, Window Drenched in Red. We had Cancer Void with their new album, or their new EP, first Metastasis or Metastasis, however you pronounce it in that case. I don't really know. It's not important. Let's see, what else did we have? Plasmodulated with their new album, An Ocean of Putrid, Stinky, Vile, Disgusting Hell.
Not sure really
I'm
what
down.
they're going for. Yeah, Chris is on board
That
with
one
that.
had a really cool album artwork, actually.
Well, I'm sure.
It was pretty fantastic. But yeah, there were a lot of options, and what I ended up settling on for my first pick is an EP from a Canadian metalcore band. It is part 2 of the Genesis EP, Genesis Part 2. The band is Oni, and it's a follow-up to Genesis Part 1.
I mean, not just a clever name. Like that's a very interesting name.
It was a backwards way to get to the introduction, but there it is.
There you go. And overall, I this is one that I really did enjoy what I've got to listen to so far.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, this is the second part of their Genesis EP. They had another EP back in 2019, Alone. And they also have 3 full-length studio albums. The band themselves formed in 2014, but it's basically kind of the solo project of founder and vocalist Jake Oni. Currently, his only other band member is guitarist Jared Dines. Jared Dines is actually a metal guitar YouTuber. I've watched some of his videos. He's got some pretty cool content. There was one video a couple months back where he had his viewers submit videos of them playing just what they consider to be cool guitar riffs. And he basically turned it into a competition where he broke down all of his viewers' videos based on what generation they're in. So he would have like one boomer video followed by one Gen X, millennial, Gen Z. And it was wild to see just how differently they interpret what a cool guitar riff is. It's just a really cool video. He had another one more recently where he gave them basically like a backing track from, I think, an Oni song, actually, and had them write solos over it. And he was kind of doing a similar thing there where he would go through and watch them. And one dude found like every type of obscure classical, like medieval instrument to play solos with over this metalcore song. Pretty wild stuff. But anyway, that's his content. The reviewer on Evermetal's website, Beth Morate, refers to Oni's music as alt metalcore. I think what that really means is it's metalcore, but sometimes it sounds like Linkin Park. Sometimes it sounds like other new metal bands, which, might be your thing. I thought it was fine. You get into track 1 of the album, and it sounds like Linkin Park doing metalcore. 2 and 3, they get a little more new metal-ish, industrial, like kind of a dirtier sound than a Linkin Park. Then you kind of get like modern progressive metalcore throughout the album. So it's got tons of metalcore variations. There's probably going to be something on it you'll find interesting if you like heavy music one way or another. Jake Oni's vocals are really good. I really dig his clean vocal side. The harsh stuff reminds you that this isn't Linkin Park, so definitely a place for that. It's a short EP, so just listen to the whole thing. There are 6 tracks. It's worth your time for sure. If I were to pick standout tracks, I would say Illumination, Float, Retribution, and the track that I picked to listen to, the song What I've Become.
Check these guys out. This is Oni with their new album, Genesis Part 2. This is the opening track off of that album. It is What I've Become, so let's listen to a little bit of that now.
I scream as the clouds shatter like glass on the ground. So now I hate what I become. Let me be undone, sinking away from the world I know. Hate what I become. Let me be undone. My heart will escape from the slice so cold.
Yeah, again, pretty much the description you gave was exactly on the money. Shout out to Duddy Swan in the chat. It was great to see him stopping by to.
Who could that be?
Who could that be? The man, the myth, the legend himself. But yeah, really good stuff from Oni. Chris, I want to get your thoughts before I jump in with mine.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to I saw a lot of reviews saying new metal, and it wasn't until that track right there that I could hear that background kind of bass chugging along, and I was like, oh, that's Korn. Okay, so there's the new metal influence. But I did already hear, like, the progressive metal in there, the industrial. There's a lot, and I think we have this with all your guys' picks. There's such a variety in the sounds that it was hard not to pick these guys. If I had picked something from this week, this would have been top of my list right here. Love the backing tracks. They're very Mick Gordon-esque. A lot of them I thought were like Doom 2016 soundtrack level. And just a beautiful voice, to the point where I don't try to pick negatives, but I could do away with some of the mixing that they do on the vocals on some of those tracks just because I love his voice so much.
That was one criticism I saw in the review I read, was that they thought they processed his voice maybe a little more than necessary, and I would certainly agree.
Yeah, interesting thought there. Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a lot of the best things that come out of those genres that you mentioned, because not all of that music is my favorite kind of music. But I feel like these guys really kind of found that spot in there that makes for really enjoyable rock music, and I'm really excited to get to listen to the rest of the album. So good stuff from them. But that is Oni with their new release this week, Genesis Part 2, or as of August the 1st. Definitely check that out. Really good stuff from them. As always, Mike, you have 2 picks each and every week. What do you have for pick number 2?
Yeah, it kind of seems like a lot of bands now have finally embraced a certain elements of new metal and incorporated it into their sound. Not necessarily a bad thing. I can definitely hear it on my second pick as well. My second pick is the 10th full-length studio album from a dark rock metal band formed in Italy but from Germany. They are Vlad in Tears, and their newest album is Hide Inside.
Yeah, we've these guys have been on our list before during this podcast, because you just don't forget a name like that. And overall, these guys are really good.
Yeah, absolutely. We did feature their prior album, Relapse, from 2024. That was back in March, I believe, of 2024. According to Wikipedia, the band consists of 3 brothers, Chris on vocals and piano, Lex on guitar, and Dario on bass. They formed between 2008 and 2010. Originally, their childhood friend Alex played drums, but after 2024's Relapse, he left the band and has been replaced by Francesco Coma. The reviewer on Cryptic Rock's website, Scott Henson, mentioned that he thought the band is kind of veering further toward metal, which, having only heard Relapse, not really being familiar with their earlier stuff, I'm kind of curious what their early sounds sound like compared to now. He talks about how the new drums really kind of have this striking power that the band wasn't really using before. He said, the music's a lot more in your face now, and that's certainly not a bad thing. So I'm kind of curious where they're heading with that. To me, this is just really enjoyable gothic metal. At times, it feels like you took a band like him or the Rasmus, and they wanted to play something more new metal-ish or metal-ish in general. Not a bad thing. Apparently, there's also a cover of a Justin Bieber song on this album. I don't know Justin Bieber songs. I only saw it on the review. They made mention of it. If it's a cover, it's a really good cover. Standout tracks on the album include The Monster Inside, Living Nightmare, No One Cares, Let Me Love You, I Want This Pain, Hide, and the track I picked to listen to, the song Your Trace.
As I told Mike on Discord, I'm a little embarrassed to know that I've heard the Justin Bieber song. When you work a lot of sporting events, you hear basically whatever the current hit songs are.
When I think of sports anthem, I think Justin Bieber.
Well, I guess maybe not for me, but I guess maybe for somebody. But it was certainly a big hit song, so interesting to hear what their cover sounds like. But we're not going to check that one out. We're going to check out the song Your Trace. This is, again, Vlad in Tears off of their new release, Hide Inside. This is the second track off of this album. Let's listen to a little bit of that now.
Falling down to the ground. I'm your trace, you never fade, you never fade. Coming down and I drown. I'm your trace, you cannot erase. Nothing to behave. I broke the seal on my slave. I'm freeing you from what it takes to come around.
again, I know we've heard from these guys before, and I really like their sound. Definitely has a feel of like, at least that track, kind of that early 2000s rock feel. It just feels like one of those groups that would tour. I'm trying to think of, because the song that popped in my mind is I Know the Breakdown. Tantric. That's who. I could not think of the name of the band.
I was thinking Edema. Which was like kind of a lesser known nu metal band there. I think the lead singer was like someone's relative or something, but kind of like that. Just
yeah, I mean, that was music I enjoyed, so not a surprise that I enjoy these guys, and I think people really need to check this album out. Chris, your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I agree with you on the genre. I'd almost even say it lends toward maybe the tail end of grunge, that early 2000s as grunge was petering out, because those vocals, as far as comparisons I like to make, that's Scott Weiland over again, just listening to that song. And that was actually the song I listened to that I was trying to pin down what exactly is this, am I listening to? Because it actually has like a rap section in it.
yeah, that song was very different, which, I'm all for the variety.
Yeah, the one thing I like is when these bands don't just play it straight and they do add some different things in there, because I think that, allows them to kind of put their own stamp on some of the stuff that may have influenced them. But
his voice sometimes even has like a Josh Todd from Buck Cherry thing going on.
Yeah, I can hear
which
that.
Which is wild.
For sure.
Because it's not Buck Cherry sounding music, really.
No.
But he got something about that. Like the tone of his voice kind of makes me think that.
I would agree with that. But really good stuff. Vlad and Tears, once again, getting it done. Definitely check out their new album that's out on August the 1st. As always, I have 2 picks as well. We are jumping right into one of our favorite countries, the country of Sweden, for my first pick this week. This is a melodic rock band from Sweden. This is Nighthawk with the album 6-3, and I believe it is 0. It's either 630 or 630, but I believe it is a 0. This is their 4th album, and these guys have a really good sound. They're led by Robert Maid. You may know him from Captain Blackbeard or Metalite. He's also the lead guitarist. Also features Bjorn Strid on vocals, who came from Soilwork. John Lonemere on keyboards. He and Strid also played together in the Night Flight Orchestra, as well as Rasmus Ernborn, who is on bass here, and Magnus Ulstedt on drums. This is a band that has that AOR melodic rock sound, but kind of a 70s throwback. It's a little bit more mid to late 70s kind of arena rock, as opposed to maybe some of the AOR that we typically get that feels more 80s inspired. This album was recorded at Rockfield Studios in Wales, probably best known for some of the big albums from Queen and Oasis were recorded at that studio, so certainly going to a classic studio to maybe try to find that classic album, and they've done a really nice job here. There's also a great cover on this album of Man on the Silver Mountain, and they really did a great job with that. Definitely worth checking out. Overall, it's a great melodic rock album to add to your collection. I really enjoyed it from front to back. Standout tracks include Hard Rock Warrior, Home Tonight, Can't Say Goodbye, and the song that we're going to listen to on the podcast is Angel of Mine. So let's check these guys out. This is Nighthawk with their new album 630. This is the 4th track off of that album, Angel of Mine. Let's listen to a little bit of it now. Yeah, again, it just a little bit more of an older style AOR than, again, a lot of the 80s type influence there. You hear the guitars. It's overall, I thought it was, that classic rock, maybe more so than mid 80s AOR. Mike, your thoughts on these guys?
The first band that came to mind when you first started playing it was Golden Earring.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, it has that kind of AOR, but still kind of in the arena rock genre too. Some of the people in the bands you name drop talking about their sound and the people involved. Night Flight Orchestra had a really good album a few months back that we talked about. And,
Yep.
Not surprising that someone from that is involved in this. It's just solid.
Yeah, very solid AOR album front to back. Chris, your thoughts on Nighthawk?
You hit the nail on the head with classic rock because we usually have about one band or one song each week that we'll listen to it, and if it's a new metal band, they're gonna go. You guys will go, oh, Chris is gonna pick that. But we get these melodic rock bands, and I go, oh, I'm pretty sure Matt's gonna pick that. But no, it even kind of piqued my interest because a lot of times with these melodic rock or power metal bands, for me to really get into it, it's got to have some grounding into another genre. And this definitely had a lot of soul within like the classic rock realm. And that definitely piqued my interest as opposed to a lot of like the power melodic metal that are just built around that one genre.
Yeah, agreed. It definitely has much more of a kind of a throwback to that mid to late 70s feel. I think that is something. And I love their routers. When you search, every week we talk about this, and Mike unfortunately has to deal with it more than anybody, is when a band is named or something that is a common term, or their album is named something that is a common term. When you go to look these guys up, it becomes a problem. And yes, when you look up Nighthawk, you get all these routers that pop up. And I think I either have one or I keep getting pitched one, so that makes it even worse that it's constantly showing up.
I don't know what's worse, the people who have the super common names where I just can't find it, or the one, like the metal bands, like the extreme metal bands have the really edgy sounding names that when I search them, I get either Google or YouTube like doing a wellness check on me, like, "Hey, buddy, are you okay?"
Yeah,
Like
You're on a list somewhere for sure.
yeah, it's just like we don't believe that you're looking for the band, murder yourself. We just want to make sure you're okay. Like, look, bad taste aside, I'm fine, but thank you. But it's like, from a marketing standpoint, is that really the name you want? I just...
You're really not counting on going big if that's your name, because that's never going to get on the bill. Like, you're going to have rights groups coming out. You're going to have, like...
I'm going to start logging, like, the bands that, when I search for them, I get these kind of responses, just so we can highlight them on the show.
That feels like one of our best of at the end of the year lists, for sure. So, but, good stuff from Nighthawk. I'm sure their routers are excellent as well. But this band definitely worth checking out. My first pick for this week. As always, I have 2 picks, and we are headed down under. We are headed to Australia for pick number 2. And this is a hard rock band from Melbourne, Australia. This is Ablaze with Sink Your Teeth In. This is their second album. It's the follow-up to their debut album, No Chaser. This band is made up of Ben Anderson on lead guitar, Dan Mangano on drums, Danny Slaviero on vocals, Matthew Dinan on rhythm guitar, and Paris Rowe on bass. It's another one of those albums that the thing I really liked about this, and I talk about this a lot on this podcast, is this is an album that no 2 songs really sound the same. They've got a lot of different variety in this album, which to me just makes it that much easier to listen to. It's got some sleaze, it's got some melodic, and it's just got some straightforward hard rock, which I really like. I think the guitar tones are excellent on this album. The vocal harmonies almost surprised me with how good they are. They're really, really good, and it just blends so well with the music in the background. To me, this sounds like just listening to their stuff and seeing some photos from some of their like album release parties. These guys look like they'd be a blast to see live, which is good if you live in the UK and Europe, because they're about to start or just underway in a tour of the UK and Europe. So if you are listening to us from Europe or the United Kingdom, make sure you check them out, because I think these guys would be an absolute blast to see. They termed this album All Killer, No Filler, which I knew.
Is that a Sum 41 album?
I possibly. But after listening to it, I'll give them that. It was really, really good. The other thing to note about this album is it's not quite Bad Religion length, but we have 8 songs and it's 32 minutes. So you're going to get through this thing pretty quickly. And it, like I said, just a really easy listen. Standout tracks include Different Kind of Nightmare, Menace for the Medicine, Gasoline, and the song we're going to listen to on the podcast is Next Train Out. So let's check these guys out. This is Ablaze from Melbourne, Australia, and their new album, Sink Your Teeth In. This is the 5th track on this album, Next Train Out. Let's listen to a little bit of that now.
Oh, yeah, my head, you've been right away. Oh, no, don't tell me
mentioned there's a little bit of sleaze there. I would even go as far as to say there's a little bit of southern rock there as well. I definitely got those vibes as we went through that. Chris, we'll let you go first. What'd you think of these guys?
Yeah, just love the variety and sound. Like I said, it opens up with that sleaze, that kind of glam hair metal opener, and then by the time you get to the last track, it's almost just an '80s ballad. You feel like you're listening to just some chill Aerosmith or something. But then right in the middle, I think it was track 3, Siren's Call. I hit that, and it sounded like something I would hear on the radio today. I mean,
Yeah.
it just time traveled right out the '80s, and it buffed everything up with some new age sound. So a lot going on, and they were right along there with Oni. If I had made picks for this week, they were right there as my secondary.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. Mike, your thoughts?
My first thought was, is Gasoline just a cover of Bad Religion's Kerosene? Because that would be awesome.
I would be.
No, you wonder why we don't see this all the time. In a day and age where people are more likely to buy a single song as opposed to an album, why not just have an album where you basically have a different sound on every song? Like there's no real need for cohesion anymore. It's not the one dude who likes your single picks up the whole CD for $17 and gets mad because that's the only song that sounds like that. Like that doesn't really happen anymore. To me, if I have a list of my influences, you're going to know them individually by each song I write, I would think.
Yeah, I think that it makes for an easier listen to me. Like we've had some, and it's something that shows up in melodic rock a lot, where you just have these albums that sound like they wrote one song and then just changed the lyrics 8 times and wrote 8 songs out of one. And sometimes you don't know when one song ends and one song begins. These guys are the exact opposite. I felt like there was such great variety, and Chris even mentioned the ballad at the end, which really I wasn't ready for, but it was really well done. It's just, again, I appreciate that. To me, that is a band that it's, considering it's only their second album, that's already reached a level of songwriting maturity that could very well carry them a long way if they continue to build on that going forward. So really excited to see these guys continue. Maybe they'll come to the States someday, but definitely check out Ablaze, their new album out on August the 1st. That takes care of our new music, but as we kind of transition into the Vault segment, Chris is going to kind of get us started with that because he's got, I'll kind of let him tell the story, but a band that we're going to spotlight one of their songs, and he's got a little bit of a backstory to it as well. So, Chris, I'll let you jump in and kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, kind of a mix of new music and Vault picks here. Like I said, we had a band reach out to us. So last week on the new music segment, you guys mentioned Tomb of Giants, and Daniel Melchior, the bassist from that band, actually reached out to our page, and he offered not only a recommendation to us of a fellow band, but just some Easter eggs about some of our topics from last week. He mentioned that Xandria, which was featured after them on our listings, were founded just 20 kilometers from them and is actually the hometown of their newest singer. Yeah, they haven't played in the region yet, surprisingly, so they haven't been able to go and actually check them out, but just kind of wanted to give a shout out to Xandria there for being so close to home.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I mentioned, we love to bring on these recommendations. We've had bands do it in the past, and I'd love to get it to where we have its own segment kind of featuring recommendations from bands, and they called out Savage Blood, a melodic power thrash metal band formed in the same region of Lower Saxony, who actually managed to just get signed to a label recently, MDD Records, with their latest album from late 2023. I'm going to go through some of the band members here, and I'm going to struggle my way through it because I'm not great with umlauts. We've got Michael Vector on bass, Mark Konecki on drums, Jorg Steinhock on guitar, as well as Timios Zorodakis and Peter Dreisman on vocals. These guys have been around in a couple different bands for a while. A couple of them were a part of Enola Gay in the early and late 90s, a fellow kind of power thrash metal band. They broke up in early 2001, and then they got a couple other bandmates, and they formed Savage Blood. This latest album I'm going to cover is called Wheel of Time, and it's got everything I want. As I mentioned, when I look for melodic or power metal, I'm looking for it to be grounded in another genre, and this is heavily grounded in thrash metal and classic metal. You've got your Dickinson, Rob Halford-esque vocals, catchy choruses, machine gun drums, and just some stellar guitar solos. It's made my playlist already. It's an album I can listen to front to back. But as far as standout tracks on this album, their first opening 3 tracks, Battle Cry, Warriors of the Fortress, and Oblivion, as well as the closer title track, Wheel of Time. One I've got laid out for everybody is Oblivion. That's the 3rd track off the album. Let's give it a listen, and I hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Chris, for that, and we will do that. I do have to tell myself a little bit as I was pulling this up quickly, because as you'll notice, it's not on the rundown. This was kind of a scramble to get all the tech stuff working today. I looked up the song, but when I looked it up, there's also a band called Royal Blood who also has a song called Oblivion that I'm sure is completely different.
Wow.
But I had accidentally pulled that up. But now we have the correct song. It is Savage Blood with the song Oblivion. So as Chris said, let's check this out a little bit now off of their album Wheel of Time from 2023. Yeah, I mean, that sounds exactly like something we would pick on this podcast. So the recommendation is right on the money. And I don't know if, because I obviously Mike has a document that has all the stuff that has shown up on this podcast. I don't know if this album may have come out before we started this podcast, because it was 2023. So it's possible it was before we started the week-to-week music. But it would have absolutely been in the running to get picked. And, you know, the sound is very much in line with a lot of the other bands that we have picked on this podcast.
Yeah, and we actually have picked them, their record label before.
Yeah.
They are the record label for the band Skullforge, who released their album, what was it, Cosmic Crusade, Chronicles, something to that effect. Had a ridiculous name, but was an awesome album. They've had some others that we've had on the list that were really good. Fatal Fire, let's see, what else do I have? Battle Creek, Extinct, definitely a Valdemar. Definitely a label to keep an eye on, because it seems like they got quite a bit of quality metal under their umbrella.
Yeah, definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on going forward, but we're very appreciative of the recommendation. And of course, if you got a recommendation for us, a lot of different ways you can reach us. You can reach us to the YouTube page like they did last week. You can also join our Discord, which is pinned in both the chats, and let us know there. We're always looking for recommendations of new bands and new music to check out, because again, as you know, obviously this was one that predated our podcast, but also as comprehensive as the lists are that we get, it is possible that there are things that don't show up on those lists. So if there's somebody out there, even if it's a small band that has an album release coming up, let us know. Yeah. We'll definitely give it a listen. I mean, we have, especially Mike, has listened to about everything. So, everything's worth a listen at least once. Maybe not more than once, but we'll see. But really good stuff there. Big thanks to Chris, and a big thanks to our band from last week sharing that recommendation. But it's time to get to the vault proper, I guess, if you will, where Mike and I will each give you a classic album to check out. And as we kind of anticipated last week, things were going to get tough for Mike in the vault. This, again, if you're just a new listener, Mike has gone through now, this is a third time through his actual physical collection of music, A through Z, to suggest albums for the vault. And Mike has an incredible collection of music, but there are a few letters in the alphabet that, even to the most avid music collector, present a problem. And we have gotten to the letter Y, and that is, there are some great choices in the letter Y, but there aren't a lot of great choices in the letter Y. So you had to actually do some digging this week to find something in the vault.
Yeah, so this is technically my second time through the alphabet as far as going through my own collection. Third time total. The second time I went through just the Wikipedia list of glam metal bands and picked a band for each letter.
Yeah.
But yeah, going through my collection, getting to the letter Y, there's not a lot out there. The obvious choice would be, yes, their album Fragile, but we've talked about that before.
Yep.
My first time through the alphabet, I believe I picked one of two albums from the band Yuzu, Japanese rock band, does music for Hunter x Hunter. Good stuff. My collection app that I use to track my CD collection lists Yngwie Malmsteen under Y, but I don't think that counts. Not in my mind.
Yeah.
Also, two different Chrono Trigger soundtracks because Yasunori Masuda worked on that, but that still also seems like cheating. So I pulled up Metal Archives and just did a search for power metal bands starting with Y. And they gave me the whole listing of bands starting with Y. I did a search from there just for the keyword power metal and started going through and just to see what would stick out. And what I ended up running into was this band called Yumerika. They are from Japan. They are listed as a melodic power metal hard rock band, although their website calls them a heavy pop band, which they are. That's fair.
Yeah. Pop has a lot different connotation in Japanese music. It is much more. There's much more rock and pop in Japan than there is over here, so I can see where that would line up.
And it's probably something more like the distinction being pop music compared to like traditional music.
Yes.
Less than pop is just what's on the radio that isn't rock or rap. So yeah, I ended up going with the band Yumerika and their debut album from 2022, 11.
Yeah. You know, I did get the chance to listen to this afternoon because it's not a band I was familiar with, and overall, it's as advertised, very solid, enjoyable album that really goes pretty quickly front to back.
Yeah, I mean, only like 7 tracks, so you get through it really quickly. The band formed back in 2012 in Nagoya, Aichi Prefecture, Japan. They consist of Yulika on vocals and guitars, Murase Hirokichi on guitars and backing vocals. Did I get his name right? That doesn't look right. Let's make sure I'm right about that. Yumerika members. Oh,
sure.
yeah, because his name is Mark. That's funny.
Oh, okay.
Metal Archive says Maku.
That would be Mark.
Yeah. I'm guessing I must have pulled it from just the website specifically, but no matter. And Tom on drums. Their website's kind of cool. It very like Japanese rock band-ish. They have like full bios of every member, giving you all their influences, their favorite foods, all sorts of stuff that I don't really need to know. But it's interesting seeing their influences. The lead vocalist, her influences include Lisa. Not too surprising.
Not at all.
Also, in this moment, Orianthe. So also not surprising you want to be a rock musician. If you like Orianthe, you want to be a rock guitarist. Fair enough. The guitarist, his influences include Metallica, Muse, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, Arctic Monkeys, Bees, because what Japanese guitarist or rock band isn't influenced by Bees? You should be. Mark on bass, his influences include Bring Me the Horizon, Nothing's Carved in Stone, Coldplay, Lacrima Christi, and Seikima 2. And finally, the drummer, Tom, his influences include Halloween, Camelot, Opeth, and Primus. So definitely a blend of influences go into this band. That being said, also in their bios, they have weird facts or how they got started in music. And for the drummer, Tom, his starting point in music is got his start while training in the mountains. He pulled a sealed magic sword. I don't know how that works, but fair enough, man. That's good.
Is he the king of England now, technically?
I think he would be. I mean, we always assumed the next king of England would be a Japanese rock drummer. At least I did. I might be alone on that one, but that's fine. Their music's heavy at times, but always stays very pop-minded at the same time. I think it was the band Mega Colossus there where I first heard the term adventure metal, and I kind of feel like that's what describes their sound. It sounds like they could have written the theme song for the next big shonen anime. Might be a little heavier than that, but still it would fit. Standout tracks on the album include, well, pretty much the whole thing. Get the Wind, Magi Noir, Maze Night, Rain, Kokuono Tsubasa, Jigo Aisei, Jinkaku, Showtime, and Hikori Emblem. Yeah, I mean, been around since 2012. They've had some singles and EPs. This is their first full-length album. Hope they keep releasing music because this was actually really good.
Yeah, like I said, I listened to it today, and I definitely enjoyed it, and certainly would listen to more of their stuff if I found it. Chris, I don't know if you had a chance to check it out or not, but if you did, do you have any thoughts on it?
I think every band needs to list on their page their starting points just like this. And if I were to do that, I would hope that mine would either be something similar to pulling a sealed magic sword out of the mountains or something as simple as this other one. When I was in junior high school, my parents told me, if you get good grades on your tests, I'll buy you a guitar. So I did.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Like, I'm pretty sure that is the storyline of Boji the Rock. Like, I'm not sure, but it could very well be. But
That's why that anime is so popular. It's realistic.
yeah, it is. It spurred a series of people buying instruments in Japan. That's kind of wild, but no, it was really enjoyable, and I feel like we've kind of dropped the ball not having some sort of ridiculous lore for the Nerdcast Empire.
It's not too late.
Maybe we need to have a lore contest to come up with something totally outrageous. But yeah, definitely.
I'm down. Let's do
Well,
it.
I didn't read this one. This is kind of tragic. The bassist, Mark, his starting point. There was a guitarist I loved. If he played guitar, I wanted to play bass and start a band together. It won't come true anymore. But ...
Oh, jeez.
That's.
That
I mean,
is
I hope that's just,
ominous.
it's not. It's like the translation, and it really isn't that tragic. But if so, that's really sad.
Yeah, it is for sure. But no, I really enjoyed these guys, and definitely looking forward to checking it out. And nice, just something different. So Yumerika, definitely check those guys out. That is Mike's vault pick for this week. Time for me to give you my vault pick. And again, for those who maybe are just joining us, because I picked so many bands that are from the record label Frontiers Records.
You decided to pick more of them.
We've decided to pick more of them, and what we decided to do was basically spend 2 weeks on each letter of the alphabet, picking one band out of my own choosing, and then letting a randomizer choose another based off the Wikipedia list of Frontiers bands. A couple rules to it, since I haven't mentioned this in a few weeks. The album that I pick has to be a Frontiers release, so I can't pick a band that released, because they have a lot of classic rock bands. I can't go back and pick something that was released in 1975 because they currently have something out from Frontiers. If they have something current, I've got to pick that. And then, like I said, that second week is a randomizer based on that letter of the alphabet. And we're up to the letter L, and it's my pick this week. And, I just knew this was going to be good, and I'm not in the least surprised that I was right. This is the single release, the only release from the band Level 10, and the album is called Chapter 1. Level 10 is the first and only album from the project with Russell Allen and Matt Center. Of course, Russell Allen gets mentioned almost weekly on this podcast. He's not the only guy involved in this act that gets mentioned weekly, as we'll get to in a moment. What I did do this week, and this is an aside because I was on the road for work this week, and so spent a lot of time in my hotel room writing and listening to music. I found a playlist of the best of Symphony X and basically played it on endless loop so that I could become more familiar. Because I know a lot of Russell Allen's other stuff. I don't really know his Symphony X stuff. We're going to see them in concert next month. So it was a great time to really get a chance to listen to his Symphony X stuff, which is excellent.
Yeah.
But this is not that. This is another side project from 2015. The lineup consists of Allen on vocals, Center on bass, Randy Black on drums, guitar player Alex Bayrot of Primal Fear, Roland Grappow of Master Plan, and of course, your friend and mine, Alessandro Del Vecchio on keyboards. The album also features songs by Amanda Somerville, Karsten Schultz, Magnus Carlsen, and Sander Gomans.
It's basically the all-star team.
That is the all-star team when you put that together. Because of that, to nobody's surprise, this is a great album. There's just too much talent on this album for it not to be great. If you're a fan of anybody that I mentioned there, which if you're a fan of Frontiers Records, there's a good chance you're a fan of at least a couple of those people, you definitely need to check this out. They haven't released anything. It was a one-time deal, but definitely worth going back and listening to. Standout tracks include Cry No More, One Way Street, Blasphemy, and Last Man on Earth. It was good. I'm not shocked. Chris, I don't know if you had a chance to check any of this out, but curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about an all-star cast. At this point, they should just have jerseys with Frontier plastered all over them. As much as we meme on Frontiers, just saying, "Hey, look, you from over there, you're gonna sing with this band over here, and it's just gonna work." Like,
Yeah.
we meme on it, but it works every single time. So I'm not surprised, much as you're not surprised. They find a way to just make all of their acts mesh together, and this is just another instance of it.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, your thoughts?
You see the roster on some of these albums, and you just assume that the money's going to charity, like they're feeding starving kids somewhere, right? Like this is the next Band-Aid or Hearing Aid or any number of those. But you mentioned Roland Grappow, also former Halloween, dude's a legend. You were talking about Symphony X, and it kind of got me stuck on that. Great band, obviously. First album of theirs I listened to was Divine Wings of Tragedy, which has some great songs on it, of Sins and Shadows, The Accolade, Pharaoh, Eyes of Medusa. Great stuff. But Russell Allen's involved, just like with this, and I'm sure both are amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely excited to see Symphony X in concert next month with Sonata Arctica. But again, if you're a fan of these guys, you need to check this out. Next week on the Vault is the randomizer pick, and we're going to be checking out the second album from the band Lords of Black. So another one of our Frontiers favorites, our good friend Ronnie Romero, will show up next week.
I only own one CD from a band whose name begins with the letter Z, and we've already talked about it, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
We will see where Mike goes.
You're going to go to Japan again.
I might pick a different country. That might even be kind of a segue into the next gimmick for the Vault. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. But you'll have to tune in to find out next Monday. And remember, Monday for our podcast next week. It is time to get to the Power Trio, your weekly hard rock hat trick, where we will go through and answer the question of the week. And Chris had a bunch of good questions this week. We picked one of them for this Power Trio. And again, as I always say, let us know in the chat. Let us know in Discord. Let us know in the comments of the YouTube video what your Power Trio is, what your answers are. We definitely want to know. But this week's question is the top 3 bands or solo artists who deserve their own SiriusXM channel. Of course, SiriusXM has artist-specific channels. Some of them are limited edition, like the Billy Joel channel. Pops up maybe like a couple times a year. You have channels like the Tom Petty channel that's on all the time. Fish, I think, has a channel.
I have the list.
Mike has the list. I hope my 3 picks haven't been on there because, again, I will admit the one thing that for those who are new to the podcast is I am also the engineer of this podcast. So I was doing engineer stuff leading up to this to make sure we got on the air and everything worked right. So didn't get as much time on the prep. But maybe we'll start with Mike since Mike's got the list of ones that have existing channels. Then we'll jump to Chris, and then I will come in with mine. Do we have any guest answers this week?
We did, which is interesting because I don't think Shane listens to SiriusXM.
Do you have any idea who has channels?
So in a way, I'm not looking at it as who should have channels. I'm looking at it as a rock music's fans audit of whether or not SiriusXM has the right bands.
Okay.
Because, you look at his opinions, and those are the opinions of the average hard rock fan. These are channels, if they don't have, they should have. And if they do have, great. They should anyway.
Fair enough. I think that's a fair way to look at it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it just sounds ridiculous in the context of things. Shane's picks, number 1, Metallica. They're getting
a channel.
So
yep.
Good call there. Number 2, Queen. Which I don't know if they've ever had temporary channels. I don't think they had to.
You would think at some point.
I think they've had a temporary channel, but that's been it.
Yeah.
Which is, he's right. They should absolutely have their own channel.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, Ozzy Osbourne, who quite famously has Ozzy's Boneyard. But
he's right. They got that one right.
Yeah, so good on you, SiriusXM. You nailed that. I did want to briefly go through the list of channels that do exist, just for the people at home, if you're playing.
Yeah.
You don't want to accidentally say that they need a Kenny Chesney channel when, in fact, they have one. We have Kelly Clarkson Connection.
Okay.
We have Chris Stapleton Radio. We have Life with John Mayer. Sounds terrible. Shade 45, Eminem's channel. The Beatles channel. Carrie's Country, Carrie Underwood. LL Cool J's Rock the Bells Radio. Bob Marley's Tough Gong Radio, E Street Radio for Bruce Springsteen, Diplo's Revolution. I thought those were like Lego blocks. I don't know. Is that an artist? Ozzy's Boneyard. Tom Petty Radio. Whole lot of Red Hot for Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay.
Eric Church Outsiders Radio. U2 X Radio. NSR No Shoes Radio for Kenny Chesney. Dave Matthews Band Radio. Pearl Jam Radio. Willie's Roadhouse. Bon Jovi Radio. Seriously Sinatra. Fish Radio. Elvis Radio. Grateful Dead Channel. Pitbull's Globalization, B.B. King's Bluesville, Kirk Franklin's Praise, Steve Aoki's Remix Radio, Chucho Valdez Cuba Beyond, and A State of Armin for Armin van Buren, who I think is a DJ.
Oh, he's not the former president?
Well, not anymore.
I'm sure Chris knows all about the Pitbull channel, for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love Pitbull. I don't know that I'd give him his own XM radio station, but I don't have a say in the matter.
And this is good because I have a new car and now I have like access to all the channels in my car. So
I don't know what channel Chucho Valdez is, but I'll figure it out.
We'll get that figured out and find out what's on there. So now that you've given us the full list, why don't you tell us who
if anyone's left?
If there's anybody left. I'm at least relieved that the 3 that I have are not on that list.
So my angle here isn't like these are great bands, they deserve their channel. To me, it's more like what styles of music within the rock spectrum aren't being served by SiriusXM presently.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So my number 1 pick, Halloween.
Yeah?
Like
Power metal.
Why can I not find power metal anywhere on SiriusXM, whether it be the channels or even their online? Like they should have a channel dedicated to so many great European, American, anywhere power metal. It's just not being served.
Agreed.
Number 2, another type of, I think, somewhat popular rock music that isn't being handled in any way, shape, or form. We need a station based on Bees or X-Japan.
Yeah. Because I did look through my entire radio and no J-rock, J-pop. Like, how are there like 10,000 channels and none of that?
Like, it can't take much overhead to run one of those.
I wouldn't think so. Maybe I could start one. I have no idea.
There we go. And finally, less popular, but I still think something that I would like to see because it's a type of music I do enjoy. A channel based on the Megas or any kind of nerdcore rock act. There's tons of that out there. We see them at numerous conventions every year. I don't know how much of an audience there is. Shane brought to my attention an artist, Sun Broku, who does like Linkin Park, Bring Me the Horizon, Knocked Loose inspired songs based on anime. He has like a song about Vegeta and Konosuba and any number of them on his YouTube channel. But it's just like, let's find an avenue for that to get out there. I think that'd be a blast.
What was the band that Saker was a member of? I saw they were going to be touring again.
Hand.
Yeah, Master Hand.
They were good.
They're going to be somewhere in Northern Ohio, I think either this weekend or next weekend.
They came up on my iPod the other day. Weebles Wobble. Great song.
They were so much fun. Definitely made the trip to the anime convention. Certainly worth it. Chris, definitely curious to hear your vault picks. Disappointed that you won't be able to pick Pitbull also, but but I know you'll have some good picks besides that. What do you have for your 3 picks?
Yeah, excited for my first in-person power trio. Went kind of the same route as Mike in trying to find genres that had less representation, but he definitely knocked me out of the park on that one. Those are far and beyond much better genres that need put on SiriusXM. But the other aspect of mine was I was trying to keep in mind bands that had plenty of deep tracks. I mean, I feel like that's the whole purpose of a SiriusXM station for an artist is you're trying to get those deeper tracks that the true fans are really going to be appreciative of. So I went with an obvious pick, Rush. They may have had a limited time run on SiriusXM, but how Rush doesn't have their own channel is beyond me, and that opens up just so many different prog acts that you could play deep tracks for. It's such a deep track heavy genre. I mean, you could have Supertramp, Pink Floyd, the list would go on and on there. I had an overlap with Shane, Queen, the same thing. We've talked so much about their back catalog that doesn't necessarily get featured on everyday radio, and they would just be a shoe-in. And then last, one that I didn't see too much variety on, and I might need corrected on it if there is, but kind of the new wave variety. And so I went with Sting. I figured that would be a good name, a solo artist name to tie to a channel like they like to do. But then you can also lump in his work with Police. So you got Sting, the Police. You get,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that opens up the floor for Tears for Fears, Men at Work, Duran Duran, so many other new wave acts that you could feature and show a lot of their back catalog as well.
Yeah, totally agreed there. And I feel like either Sting or the Police might have had a limited run channel at some point, but it wasn't a full-time channel. I feel like channel 33 on SiriusXM, I can't remember what it is, but it's something that plays a lot of the stuff he says, but it's not an artist-specific channel. So you feel like actually pinning an artist to that style of music would maybe draw more listeners in. And also, you know, the other part of that is having, like, you know, old concerts, having things like that that don't necessarily play all the time. When you flip by some of those stations you mentioned, they'll play just deep cut concert footage from 30 years ago and stuff like that that you might not be able to find anywhere else. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, play me some of the Synchronicity tour or the Scrantonicity tour.
Yeah, Scrantonicity too.
Not Scrantonicity, which I'm no longer a
The
member.
bar has an applause meter.
But
No, I agree. I think SiriusXM should be about serving me music that I wouldn't get in mainstream radio. It's so weird when you listen to like an Octane or Hair Nation's really bad about it, where they play the most obvious. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to hear that Great White song again. Like, there's
Shout at the devil.
yeah, it's just this is so unnecessary. Like, there are so many lesser known songs that I think I'm paying for this. Like, give me something interesting. I don't know.
And, you know, we're going way off the rails here before we get to my picks, but something I've noticed now that I have a car that actually has, you know, Apple CarPlay and their Android Audio is, like, how's SiriusXM doing? Because
Makes you wonder.
I have listened almost exclusively to YouTube Music since I got the ability to hook my phone to my car. I have all these SiriusXM channels, and I rarely listen to them because I just listen to the stuff that I listen to. So
They're doing well enough to have a full-time pro wrestling channel.
they are.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means, which reminds me there's a pro wrestling event going on right now, which probably means I need to start working this to the end. But before I do that, let's get to my vault picks. You kind of hit the one on the head. I picked Lark on CL as the linchpin to your J-Rock channel, but
I think I went maybe a little more classic rock.
Yeah.
And yours is a little more contemporary.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, there's too much good J-Rock out there for there not to be some sort of channel for your TM Revolutions, for your Siam Shades, you know, groups like that. You mentioned a couple of classic
And certainly
ones
the
as
pop side could be.
well.
I mean, there's so many obvious.
Yeah.
Otto, Yoasobi.
Well, and the idol side of it, that's so huge, whether it's, you know,
Clearly money there.
there's huge money there. So
There's Uma Musume.
Yeah, Uma Musume channel, the AKB48 channel, the Morning Musume channel. But anyway, any of those would work. As a gag, I picked the Magnus Carlsen channel. Like, I want a channel of all the music he's written, because, of course, he is one of the primary writers for Frontiers. He, of course, you know, we've talked in the past. He wrote the Alan Land stuff. He wrote most of their duet album stuff. We just talked about one earlier. The guy's clearly a genius, and anything he's involved in, I want a channel of all of that and be able to listen to it because it's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure.
And the last one is Chicago. Like, I love Chicago, and you know, whether it's your 1967, 68, 69 late era Chicago Transit Authority stuff, all the way up to their kind of commercial stuff of the 80s and 90s, I would love a channel like that. I would love a channel that plays kind of your horn rock, you know, some horn,
like Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
not that level. There's a channel for that if you want that, I'm sure. But you know, bands like Huey Lewis and the News, and you know, there are a lot of those bands of the 80s and 70s that incorporated the brass sounds to their rock music, and obviously Chicago being the linchpin of that. Honorable mention that I'm shocked didn't come up was Bad Religion. Like a Bad Religion channel that plays like pop punk, basically, stuff that's not like the hardcore punk that is a little bit too inaccessible, but more like mainstream punk.
I think the problem with that is punk fans generally are like more temperamental or gatekeepy, even more so than metal, I think. So like probably 3 out of the 4 artists at any point in time that they would play on that channel, people would hate.
Yeah.
Like, no, that band's a sellout. Like, why would you play them? I just pleasing that crowd would be difficult, I think.
Maybe just call it Sellout Punk.
There we go. We could do that.
You know, and they play Cult of Personality on there too if you want.
One thing I was thinking about, going back to Chris's picks when he kind of mentioned that it was relating to new wave, and I think also the prog kind of gets this too, is that all these other genres kind of have their signature artists that they can cling on to. Hey, it's their channel. Who are the signature artists for all these different subgenres? Like, I would love to kind of think about that more. Obviously, there's so many great prog bands, a lot of new wave acts. One more recently that I'm surprised hasn't had a channel on SiriusXM is like the whole emo thing of the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Where's the Taking Back Sunday channel? Like
MCR.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm shocked there's not a My Chemical Romance channel because the people that love that band.
But they don't subscribe to SiriusXM.
Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of great options there, and we want to know your options as well. So join our Discord.
But it poses the question: who is the signature artist of all those subgenres when you look at them?
Yeah, that's another really good question that we could maybe tackle somewhere down the road. But a lot of good stuff. That's our answers. Let us know what your answers are. We definitely want to check those out as we go forward. But going forward is what we're going to do now, and we're going to go forward to the end of this week's episode of the Hard Rock Empire. Huge thanks to everyone who joined us. This may be one of our biggest live crowds on Twitch. Thank you all so much. Of course, the VOD will be up later on YouTube as well, so make sure you check that out. Again, huge thanks to everybody. If you do nothing but stop by, share our posts, we are incredibly appreciative of that. Thank you all so much, and we look forward to continuing to do this podcast and more here on the Nerdcast Empire. A reminder, we'll be back with you next Monday. That'll be 1 week from tomorrow with the music of August the 8th, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, same time, 1 day later. That'll be our next episode of the Hard Rock Empire, number 80. Big thanks to Studleg Media for their continued support of our podcast. Big thanks to Chris joining us on the new technology this week. Big thanks to Mike, as always, for all his work. A big thanks to everyone who chatted, who cheered in the chat, everything. Thank you all so much for that. And a big thanks to everyone listening on the VOD, wherever you may be listening. We'll be back with you next week with another episode of the Hard Rock Empire. Until then, don't forget to join the Empire, the Nerdcast Empire.